Okay, I don't know if this will work. Oh my god, alright. I don't think Mark realized this. Look how much stone this in the screen.
You guys can hear it. That's cool.
Oh, that is trippy!
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so learning about Atlantis. We're gonna That's really, oh my god, it even moved when I select the thing. That's just weird. Okay, let's begin the game. End is never the end, is never the end, is never the end.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
So it's the first playthrough I'm going to do on this, I'm going to do it to where I'm like actually listening to this guy totally. See what will happen. There's going to be a lot of plays in this game.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Look around first.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
I'm curious as to what the game actually is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Not all this, let's poke off and piss off the narrator. I want to know what the game actually is.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
I may mention how much I really don't like the dark.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Oh. Why can't I sneak?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all. And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Okay.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine! Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
So here's a question. I don't like that it's dark in there, so
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
okay, well, so that's basically the game.
Since that time, the volcano has been growing again, pushing back up through the ocean.
Well, it's always good to know at least, you know, how it's supposed to go.
Almost to the size that it was when it erupted.
Now I get tired of pissing off.
Seismologists believe that it will erupt again. The question is when.
Now we put load.
Next big blast comes. The best we can do is ultimately predict it and get away. If we don't, if we stay here, that makes a big explosion.
No.
When the volcano goes
Alright.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Nope.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
No, I'm standing, not just standing around. I am trying to click on every damn thing.
Yeah. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Are you okay? You heard him, right? Oh, he was it's like, you okay, dude?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
I wonder something.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Oh, I had to know. I had to know. Alright.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Alright, so Not leaving.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Okay, so the whole idea is at first to appease him, then we'll piss him off, so.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
No. Oh god, double no. They're both black inside! Dude! I don't wanna go in a black room! Where it's dark? Are you kidding me? It's fine.
What do we want? What are we looking for?
How about some fucking light?
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy. No, wait. Where are you going? Right. Where were we? away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
Well, I'm not gonna die. Pretty sure I know how to walk up the big
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Seriously? Oh, that's a set of suicide stairs. I knew that. Wonderful. I'm gonna go back.
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
Here is getting boring. Did you take my door? Okay, no. For a second there, I thought you took the door away.
No! What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here. Are you are going to stay here, aren't you? You heard me before, didn't you? You will die! What about this isn't getting through to you?
Okay. Alright, enough messing around. I'm gonna have to jump off the stairs in order to figure out what's else, because this is all that's going on, is just back and forth.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
You scared the crap out of me, dude! Jesus. I wonder, I jump, could I make it all the way back over there?
No!
Ow.
Oh, thank God you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room? There. See? This is what you want. This is where we can both be happy. We really can. If we stop moving, we just have to stop moving.
Okay. Let's see what happens. But that's gorgeous, and I love the way that they did it. But again, let's see if I don't crouch this time and will actually do something.
Stanley, go back. There's nothing good that can come from this.
I'm sorry, dude. I've got to.
No, what do you do? Do you just not believe me? What can I say to convince you? Let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Oh, this is creepy. How many times do I have to jump off that thing before it
Yes.
finally kills me?
Perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you? No, perhaps not. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
I feel so bad though. That's cute. Bad. I do. That's like serious guilt tripping. Okay, guys, I'll probably cut this out, but I really want to know what happens if I just stay here. What he'll do if he'll do anything. He mentioned about not moving and just staying here. So what happens if I do that? I gotta jump because nothing's progressing the game.
Maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Okay.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Poor guy. I feel so bad. I really do. Oh. Alright, let's try to not get in that room again, because I don't know if I can handle more of that. He just sounded so sad.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, so slow him down to pissing him off.
When Stanley came to a set of two open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
So we already went that way. Now, do we want to go that way again to see where that lift goes? That's another option we haven't tried yet.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
I'm sorry, but her? Wow.
That's her, Stanley.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your damn life.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
I don't know. Because you're dead.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
Oh! Really? I walk this way? He bricked it up. Okay, fine.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions, and down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Okay. Now what? See, look, if I listen to him, I can't do nothing.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
I gotta push every other button but
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
that's scary. It said, please die.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead
Even
and
now,
open right
Stanley's
door,
office
but
was a
then we
distant
get
memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
After watching, what did you just say? You were a painting?
When Stanley came to a set of two open... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there. Just a kind of, tingle. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Okay, so I see the meeting up there. Let's shall we? Oh god, not this again. Oh, I swear to god, if it's the same stairwell, I gotta kill myself on it. Pissed.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Oh, left.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
I thought you let me out of this room.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Dude, it's dark in here. Open a damn
we went
door.
down, right, left, down, left,
Oh
right.
my Jesus.
Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
No, look! There's fucking eyeballs, look, right there. Oh, they're not eyeballs, they're... Oh, get me out of here. Oh my god. Out. I don't like dark, fucking dark. Nope. Okay, here we go.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
That's cute. Alright, so I'm gonna call it a night. And go from there, y'all. Because it's late. We need to go to bed. And that thing with the eyeballs, just... Screw that so hard. Okay? You know, I'm gonna have nightmares now. Especially if I walk through the damn dark corridors. Screw this. Everything that goes along with it. I am not a wuss. Anyway, you guys, I'll see you later.